What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Bourbon Talk. This is episode 7 of Bourbon Talk, and I am your host, Ty the Bourbon Guy. And tonight I am joined by Seth Bainheim. Pretty sure I'm saying it correctly.
You got it.
A Broken Barrel Whiskey. So how's it going this evening, Seth?
Everything's great, man. How about yourself?
Yeah. Good, man. I was actually I was kind of jealous because the weather. It's been a little warmer here. I'm in Indianapolis, so like it's been warmer than most Octobers, I'd say. But today was like one of those like cooler days where I was kind of like starting to go down that way. But it's Indy, so it's like it'll snow at any point. So seeing you're in LA, I was like, oh man, that sounds great. So
yeah, we got pretty perfect weather out here most of the time. So that's probably the only one of the few positives of California.
Yeah. Well, are you are you near like beaches and stuff? I mean, I've been through LA, but never actually been to it.
Yeah, but you pay for all that. That's all gonna cost you an arm and a leg, man.
God, man. That's yeah. I mean, in Indy, it's like I think we had snow. I want to say it was like April, or I don't think it was May yet. It was something like that though. And I had sent some pictures to family and friends, and they're like, "Why do you live there? Like, go move somewhere else."
Yeah,
but, I mean,
it's living ain't cheap out here. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
not
it's
at all.
Good.
Not at all.
Yeah. So welcome to the show. Really excited. So just for everybody watching, we're going to kind of get into Broken Barrel a little bit and find out more about it. Just to give you kind of a background of a lot of the viewers that are watching this, it's kind of a mix. So there's a lot of people that are real heavy into whiskey and understand every little thing about it. There's also quite a few people that are just kind of getting into it. So, as you're explaining certain things, it might help to break certain things down. But I know for me, when I first got into whiskey, I was like, I don't know what the difference between all these different things are. But but no, man, yeah, I'm excited you actually have a few different ones here. So before we get into that, though, I'll let you go ahead and just kind of tell us a little bit more about Broken Barrel itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got a pretty interesting and unique perspective on whiskey. And so everything we do is characterized by having an oak bill. So all whiskey has a mash bill. Our whiskey has obviously not just the mash bill, which we put on every bottle. We spell it out for everybody. So we tell you exactly what grains we use, where they're from, how much of each is used in the production of the whiskey, bourbon and rye. But then we also take it a step further and we do what's called an oak bill. And if you've seen anything of about us online, you may have seen me swinging a sledgehammer or an axe or a pickaxe or some, I've even wielded a flamethrower at one point.
That's awesome, man.
We do different things with barrels and with oak. Whiskey, obviously the mash bill is super important. No question about how the mash bill plays into the final product. But net, the oak is what's going to make such a big impact. Time, the type of oak, elevation where it's stored, amount of surface area of oak in contact with the actual liquid itself. So all those components, I kind of look at all the things you can do with whiskey as levers. And you cast strength, you push that lever all the way forward, water it down, get it to a nice, palatable, smooth proof. With our process, we can take oak. That's a lever we have that we can play with and put more and more and more oak. We can put different kinds of oak, so we can kind of do a half throttle on sherry cask and a full throttle on French oak or more bourbon barrel. But net, we're taking oak and putting it inside the whiskey. So when we say oak bill, we are literally smashing, gathering up the staves of a broken barrel, hence the name, putting that oak inside the whiskey, and then we are actually letting the little staves, the slats that form the barrel, float around literally inside the whiskey in a tank. After the whiskey's already been aged traditionally, we do this finishing process with staves call it a stave finish. We call it oak bill. We explain the different ratios of each oak that we use all on the bottle. So at this point, I'll hold up a bottle so you can kind of see the mash bill and the oak bill right there. So it's listed out. So 3 of our 4 whiskeys that you're going to try tonight, Ty, are going to have a 40% French oak, a 40% ex-bourbon, and a 20% sherry. We love that oak bill. It pretty much defines our core lineup. It is the through line between all the whiskeys. Then we toggle proof, we toggle type, mash bill, and yeah, that's kind of what sets us apart. And then we also do a lot of limited edition releases. We're starting to do a lot of single barrels for whiskey societies. We kind of held off on doing that to focus on our core lineup and building our brand and getting our new packaging out, which I've got my bottle here, but you can see our bottles are pretty cool. Got the Broken Barrel in the glass there. Just awesome labels, great design from top to bottom. I think you got a rye whiskey. Yeah, I had a few more of those than the other one, so I wanted to send you that one. And
sure,
personally, I just think the rye whiskey is probably one of our absolute best. So
yeah, and it's
we'll get into it. I'm sure.
Yeah, no, man, I think it's so cool to me. So I've talked about this on some previous streams. So I hear people talk all the time in whiskey about whether it's back in the day, I could just go in the liquor store and buy blah, 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 right, on the shelf. Nobody wanted it. And to me, it comes across as like bitter. And just one of the things I've said is that I'm okay with, even though I understand what people are saying, I'm okay with everything going on right now because it's pushed everybody to be so creative in what we do. Right. So it's like, man, I mean, there's like so many different, it's like different. There are some companies, traditional companies that are trying different things. But when I came across Broken Barrel for the first time, I thought, man, what a cool concept. Like, it's just like, I think it's like one of those things with so many whiskey brands that, in my opinion, as a consumer, it differentiates you all because it's like, it made me stop and just be like, whoa, what is this? Like, this is not like anything like I've seen before. So for you all to have an oak bill and a mash bill, I think it's like who's, that's crazy. I think that's awesome. And just, willing to try different things and experiment and all those different things. So I'm excited to try it, man. So I will let you kind of guide us, since you sent them.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously, you know all about it. So whichever path you feel like we need to go down, I'm good with it. So
I usually go proof, honestly. So, and it's actually nice because then the progression of the oak bill starts to make a lot more sense too. So, go ahead and start with the California oak, which kind of tells a nice little story to start with as well. This is actually our newest whiskey of the lineup you've got there. So you should have hopefully a bottle of the California oak at 88 proof.
Okay, I see that. Is the red label?
Yeah, purplish. Yep.
Okay.
And this one's interesting. So this is
so here, I'll hold this.
Yeah, and that's our former label. So
okay,
you may see a bottle that looks kind of like that on the shelf. You definitely catch a few of these bottles out there because the new ones just landed. So they're still getting out there. A lot of stores will still have the former packaging, former product on the shelf. But yeah, no, it's a bourbon whiskey, straight bourbon whiskey from Kentucky. It's distilled, fermented, the whole, milled. The grains come in from local sources in Kentucky. It's all done under one roof. It's aged on site, dumped after 2 to 3 years, and we put everything. We batch it all up. We do a nice blend, and then we take Cabernet barrels. So the California oak is centered around a different oak bill than the other 3 whiskeys, which are all the same. It's got 80% Central Coast Cabernet staves and 20% French oak. So it's got a different oak bill there, and this is going to be a lot fruitier, a lot different than some of the other whiskeys you're going to try tonight. So
Okay.
this is a very, you know, I call this an entry level daily sipper, a dinner bourbon, a table bourbon.
Mhm.
It's just meant to kind of combine where I'm from, California, and kind of where I'm at, which is Kentucky, with all these brands and these products and all these partnerships I've arranged, distilleries I've been to. I've been to over 30 something distilleries in Kentucky now, that I visited and supported and bought products from. And so, you know, my heart's in Kentucky, but I'm from California. I'm living in California, trying to convince my wife to move to Kentucky, stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
you know, all that going on.
Right. Sure.
This bottle's kind of like that struggle between, you know, home and you know, business and pleasure, home and work, that kind of thing.
Right. Bringing the two together. Yeah.
Yeah, I was born in 1988 too. I'm a young guy, so 1988,
It's a
88.
good year. That's the year I was born.
Yeah, you're a young guy
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
My default.
Yeah.
So 88 proof, I thought it was kind of a nice way to kind of ring in the 88. So that's kind of where and it happened to just taste really good at that proof too. But
Man, yeah. I was gonna say I love this nose,
yeah,
man. This is
easy drinking,
yeah.
definitely easy drinking.
And the nose comes through too. There's no surprises for me. Whatever what I get on that nose is coming right through on the palate. That kind of so I'm not, and I thought it was interesting when you said something to drink with dinner or just a daily sipper. To me, I'm not really big on. I don't really drink that much bourbon when I'm actually eating dinner. So like it's always funny to me because we'll go out and we'll go out to get something to eat and I just order water or something else and then I'll get bourbon after I eat, but I just don't really like to drink bourbon as much while I'm eating. And so it's always funny because people always look at me like, oh, which bourbon is he going to get? Whatever. And it's like,
Yeah,
I just want some water. Right. But
yeah,
this though, like I could see, and I could tell right off the nose, like I would be interested to try to see if I could pair that with some foods. And it is because it's such an easy sipper. It's like this really would go, and it's got a lot of notes in it that would probably complement certain foods. Like
yeah.
I'm not
Oh,
a big wine person, but like this and a steak, like how people would probably eat.
I mean, that's kind of exactly how it was intended, for all the Cabernet drinkers. And, you know, there's a lot of us here in California, especially. Um, we, in our house, we drink a lot of wine while we eat.
Mhm.
Not as often will you find us having, you know, a bite of food, bourbon. It's
Right.
not, doesn't feel as natural, or as comfortable versus say, having a nice glass of wine where you can sip on that. So, but I think that bourbon actually, if you were to put it on the rocks, it's
Mhm.
more palatable, more easy to drink when you're having food, especially in the summer months and when it's a little hotter out. So having a little bit of bourbon on the rocks with your dinner is definitely, I'd say, a better pairing than neat whiskey or cat strength whiskey. You know,
Right.
like trying to
Right.
eat a burger, you know, it can sometimes throw you off. I think the environment and you know, if are you eating by yourself and taking your time, or are you
Sure.
eating up with the family and kids and this, like, it's kind of hard to, you
Yeah.
know, hard to manage. Every meal is going to be different. Every whiskey experience when you're drinking is going to be a little different depending on who you are or where you are or who you're with and that kind of stuff. So, but it's just meant to be very approachable bourbon. Again, this is generally 29 to 35 bucks depending on what state you live in. So yeah, this is not a, none of these really are bank breaking products that are gonna set you back a tremendous amount. I mean, you could take $100 bill and buy 3 of our whiskeys, any 3, mix and match, and have a really nice, you know, flight of 3 whiskeys to try at home. Was kind of the intention, like 2 $30 bottles and a $40 cask strength or something like that. So that's the way we priced it. I mean, I just listened to a podcast with Fred Minnick this morning, and they're talking about all these $60, you know, 2, 3, 4-year-old whiskeys, and that they're doing really well. So I just feel like, oh, you know, we're doing it for a little less than that, for sure. You know, we don't have anything that's hit the market at this point that costs $60.
Right.
So one day
Yeah. No, this is good, and it's like so I'm obviously sipping it neat tonight. So, but I could tell, man. I mean, like even just drinking like this, it's like, man, that would pair really well with food. But then even sitting with it, like just in this few minutes, I'm getting, just different things. It's like opening up a little bit to me. So it's definitely one I could see going either way. There's some that are, daily sippers, and I kind of just, whatever, or maybe with a meal. But then sometimes it's like if I sit down with it, it doesn't really do much. But this, because of it's so interesting to me. And I'm sure that's the impact of that oak that you're saying. But
and that's the thing what I was getting to is I'd say 60, 70, even 80% of the oak, the flavor in a whiskey is coming from or influenced by or a result of that oak. So when we say a stave, you're talking about the back, the front, the sides, everything in contact with the whiskey, the surface area of oak to whiskey in contact is just tremendously different, even than say a half barrel or a quarter cask. It's just, it doesn't even compare to our oak influence when using staves. Where can I pick up a bottle of 3? Depending on what state you're in, tell me what state you're in, I'll help you out. But Total Wine does carry our product in California. We have Bevmo and several others. Florida, we're in Total Wine in Florida as well, so you can find us there. Total Wine.
So, and you said this is the old labeling, right? But yeah, Broken Barrel.
It would probably be in that label, honestly.
Okay.
Total down the road, yeah. Just call ahead, make sure they have the one you're looking for. They might have the rye whiskey, the small batch, or that California oak. And that's the next one we should taste here is the small batch. I jumped ahead. I got cast strength in my glass, but I'm probably only gonna have about this much bourbon. I wasn't gonna drink today.
So
I'm trying to I'm struggling to get Monday through like Thursday without drinking, just to kind of keep my insides alive. Because there's a lot of drink. Yeah, these are like daily drams that we're having with all these reviews and stuff. So
the 116 proof turns into the daily sipper.
116 becomes, just do one of these and I feel pretty good. So
we're gonna go to the 95 proof, right?
Yeah, 95 proof. That is our small batch. The new one looks like, I got a bottle here. The new one has our yellow label. So we're starting to see this pop up in Total Wine. You'll see the 95 proof in yellow, small batch. And this one, so California oak, we didn't talk about the mash bill. California oak is 70 corn, 21 rye, 9% malted barley. This is the exact same whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Juice is the same.
I just noticed your mash bill is actually the same on all of these, right?
What's that? Yeah.
Obviously, except for the rye.
Right. Yeah, the mash bill on all 3 of these bourbons is identical. The age, the source of where the whiskey's from, identical. So what you're really tasting are the toggles, the levers that we're pulling and pushing. And so here we've taken the proof a little bit higher, and we've taken the oak bill and we've pulled back the Cabernet, put some sherry, put more French oak. There's double the French oak in this bottle than the last one. This is 40%. That was 20. So the oak bill here and on the next 2 you're going to try, all 3 of these next whiskeys have the same oak bill. So I'll just say it, once now, maybe once at the end. It's 40% ex-bourbon barrel. Call it our double oak effect. 40% French oak and 20% sherry cask. So when you are tasting this one, really you are going to get a little more proof, but ultimately what you're looking for is the difference between that oak bill on the small batch versus that California oak. And my hope is that you'll taste a pretty dramatically different whiskey. It should be familiar enough because it's the same exact juice,
right?
Everything about it, but the finish, the mouthfeel, the sweetness notes, the fruit notes, like taste the difference between what you had before and what you're having now, and kind of compare, because that's what we're looking at here. That's what we're looking for, is proving this theory that oak is going to make a big difference in the final product.
Man,
Just
already on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going back
It's
and forth? Are you going back and forth?
yeah. So I no, I should though. I actually want to now.
I thought you had 2 glasses. I wasn't sure.
That first no, that's that 88 proof was actually pretty good. So we just went ahead and finished that one. But
No,
um
I would tell people too, like, one thing I'm doing, you notice I actually haven't taken a sip yet. Like, I let it sit in the glass for at least 4 or 5 minutes on most
mhm,
whiskeys I taste, including our own. Whether I'm opening something new, like a neck pour, that kind of thing. I really want the whiskey to kind of aerate a little bit,
yeah.
let those
Yeah, I'll
harsher
get the
ethanol fumes kind of come off. So I give it a minute. I don't just dive into a whiskey the second I pour it.
sure.
And I'm noticing, you notice the aroma of the whiskey gets so much better. Just really evolves and gets stronger and deeper, and a lot more notes you can pick out from it when you let it sit there in the glass for just a few minutes.
Yeah,
Just
so
yourself, you're just going.
right, just double up. And then I poured the 116 proof so that can start sitting there. But one of the things I noticed like right away is you're using Cabernet, so a Cabernet barrel. Is that
Mm-hmm.
what the oak, right? Um, and I think that's so interesting because instead of like, I mean, you see finished products, which obviously but that's different to me. Like, there's some that are I feel like they're kind of like in the same boat, but this is not that in that same way for me in a good way. Like
Yeah,
I'm not that big of a wine. I said earlier I'm not that big of a wine drinker. My wife really is, so she loves all these you know Cabernet finished bourbons because she also loves bourbon too. But I'll drink them, but it's always a different experience for me than it is for her.
yeah.
But
There's
but
only
this
two.
is like
Yeah,
along those lines. But I could do this. This is
I
like
can think of like a handful, maybe, of Kentucky bourbons finished in cab. Jefferson's did one, and I would argue that we're probably the best value priced of any of them at
oh,
30.
they're all very
Uh,
up there.
Jefferson's does one. Uh, Burning Char, which is the second. There's a guy in California. There's Amador does one, and then I think Davies County out of Lux Row has a Cabernet finish as well. And then obviously Bardstown Prisoner. I believe I think Prisoner is a cab. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that.
My wife's in the chat. She and Prisoner's her favorite, so
Prisoner, yeah,
she'll
yeah.
explain it. She'll break it down for
I picked up a case of Prisoner wine today.
us.
Um, I love that stuff. But yeah, anyway, so I mean, Cabernet's probably less than a dozen Cabernet finished Kentucky bourbons out there that I can think of. And I look for this stuff, so I'm definitely aware of the ones that have come out. And yeah, this is definitely a delicious, the California oak one especially.
Yeah, it's like a excuse me, it's like a different maybe different impact that it's having than maybe the other ones are. So, okay, she's saying Prisoner is a red blend, but tastes very much like a
Oh,
cab.
got it. Yeah, it's a blend. Got it.
Yeah.
Helpful.
So,
I wasn't sure it was a
um,
cab. That one doesn't count then. Take it
yeah.
out. Not, like,
But I actually so on the nose though, I mean, yeah, I'm getting more like fruitier notes in the is it called the California oak? What's
second one is the one you're drinking, the new one now, the 95 proof. That's just our
yeah,
small
I
batch.
was kind of just bouncing between the 88 and the 95. So the in the 95 proof I get more it's almost like it reminds me of more like syrup, but not it's kind of like going down the path of like maple syrup versus the first one that was a little bit more fruity. Like I got a lot more fruity notes in there. Um, but it's not. It's always a weird. I got to figure out what that note is. It's like sometimes I get syrup, but it's not like traditional like maple syrup. It's like gives me that feel. But
Yeah, I get a lot of on the small batch, which is not what I'm drinking, but I'm just recalling. I remember having a lot of like birthday cake batter, sweetness, little like vanilla frosting.
Yeah.
I just did a post
Yeah.
recently. Candy corn, some of that kind of,
Yeah.
real punchy, like high spike sweetness.
I
That
could
kind
see
of
the frosting.
and then the other, the little bit of fruit on the forward, on the beginning of it, you're going to get a little bit of that fruit kind of fades away quickly as the sweetness and the sugars kind of hang around on the tongue a little bit. But, a little sharper, little higher proof than the California oak, not as smooth, being 95 versus 88 on like a smooth scale. A lot of people look for really smooth whiskey.
Right.
Our proof's obviously going to be our smoothest. And maybe, not to be mean, but smooth might just mean, less flavor to other people. If you're drinking cats, obviously, way more flavor, not as smooth, but,
Right.
also a lot of smooth cast strengths. And I believe you, as a more seasoned drinker and someone that actually drinks, a good amount of that high proof stuff and high octane whiskey, you may find that our cast strength is at 115 is actually pretty smooth for the proof, which is that's my train of thought.
Yeah, so I was noticing that too with the proofs. So for your whiskey so far, there's times where, if you're, and we're coming out of summer, and I try to explain to people that I don't, even though I enjoy higher proof whiskeys, it's like it's summertime, so I'm not I'm not always grabbing 130 proof every day, neat, whatever. But sometimes when I go, if I grab something and then it's 90, 94 is a popular proof, or somewhere in that range, I would say 94 or below, I can almost, it does sometimes taste watered down because that flavor is missing. And with these, before we even brought this up, when I first took that first sip, that's the first thing I thought of, is I don't have that here. Like, it's not that it drinks hot. It's just when you go, in some of my experiences, it's not this way with every whiskey or anything like that, and not everybody picks this up. But when you go, especially below 100, sometimes it can taste watered down. Whereas these, the flavor is still there. It's just a lower more approachable proof.
Yeah.
So, and I would assume that has everything to do with your unique process. But
a lot of oak flavor, a lot more influence. You get a different sort of mouthfeel from these than maybe other whiskeys that are lighter, a little fluffier, a little thinner. We don't want our whiskey to taste too thin, and so that oak bill obviously gives it a little more depth and a little bit more roundness and more completeness, especially being a younger whiskey.
Yeah, and I think in my opinion, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, with the cake batter.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going down that path, reminds me of like birthday cake or
birthday bourbon,
confetti cake or something like that. Yeah. And that's where, because to me, I define sweet, but then with what I was saying earlier about the syrup, sometimes that, and I can tell just by the glass, like the viscosity of it, it gives you, like, you could tell this whiskey is not a thin layered whiskey. It's there, and it has that note to it. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that one.
Well, wait till you get to these next two. I mean, this is where it gets really interesting, right? And I love our first two products. A lot of times I remind myself constantly, or I find myself having to remind myself that I'm not just making, whiskey for myself. I'm making whiskey for everyone in the world. And there are, all kinds of palates, all kinds of profiles, all kinds of desires for different whiskeys. And so, we don't always do everything. A lot of times when I try to make whiskey for myself, it can backfire too. Like I've competed whiskeys, and a lot of the people that know our brand and think of our brand are bourbon people, and then they try peated whiskey, and sometimes in a lot of instances we're the first time people are trying peat because they just have already written off Scotch, and here's an American whiskey that's peated, and they're just putting two and two together, and they're trying it. They're going, "Oh God, this is terrible! Like I don't like peat at all." Like Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have, made so much of this. And so a lot of learning experiences that have
Yeah.
come with that. But, I still like doing this stuff for me, but I've learned to do less of that and make it a little more special. And the people that really have followed my journey and our team and our company and have really begun to get an understanding of who we are and what we're trying to do and what we put out. And watch shows like this where we're doing these interviews and we allude to some of the stuff coming out, and they love that stuff. They're big fans of, we did one called the Fenwalker, which was peated and sherry cask with some Ardbeg barrels on top of a previously aged in Lefroy barrel. So it was a whole thing that we worked on. So, really, really fun projects, but definitely. Okay, phone call. I'm going to tell us this one call back.
So do you ever find, like, you're kind of talking about it now, but I've always wondered that about a lot of different brands. And I think, when it comes to craft whiskey, you have a little bit more of that creativity and that ability to do some of those unique things. But do you, because it seems like, just from the consumer standpoint, where maybe the consumer wants a brand to go down a certain path, but that brand is very much like, this is the path we're on. We're not going this way. It sounds like you're kind of talking about that now, but is that something that
I see that more with the corporate? I mean, I think a lot of consumers are begging, give us Elijah Craig barrel proof, give a barrel proof rye, or give us toasted barrel rye, or give us toasted barrel broken barrel, or give us cast strength broken barrel rye, or these things. And, I get emails and calls and stuff, or people that are doing our tasting room or something like that. Like, they're asking, like, are you ever going to do? That's the first question you always get. Is like, are you ever going to do thanks for, I just tried 16 whiskeys. Have you thought of this? Like, are you ever going to do that? And you're like, dude, you just tried like 12, 14 different whiskeys. Like, I just pulled stuff from the barrel that's not even out yet for you. And you're asking, do I have this one thing you didn't get to try? Like, what about cast strength single malt? Like, I mean, maybe one day, if you keep following us and check it out, and there may be a barrel that comes through our place that, we'll bottle some odds and end barrels and we'll throw an oak bill at it and we'll release it in Los Angeles, for example. But definitely not going to stray from, the one thing that we get asked for all the time is put an age statement on it. And quite frankly, I don't think you're going to see that from us. Like, and a lot of brands don't do that either. A lot of brands that did do it fell into the same problem we're trying to avoid, which is if you run out of inventory, first of all, we're not the distiller. And I'll put that out first and foremost. Probably should have said it at the beginning, but we are not the distillery. We don't distill. We have a great partnership that's going to go for many, many, many years with a massive company in Kentucky, in Owensboro, Kentucky. They're going to be around for a very long time, and we're going to be around with them. We're building a brand for the long term. This is not some attempt to capitalize on bourbon and the boom. And I think that's evident in our $30 price point. We're not trying, our margins are pretty low, all things considered. So we're not these guys that are putting out a young whiskey and trying to get, $60, $80, $100 just because bourbon's hot and it's a tall bottle and it's got all the little buzzwords on it and those things. We're making, we make one thing. We make Kentucky whiskey. It's our core lineup, and it has an oak bill. And if the whiskey gets older, great. It has gotten older already. The stuff you're trying is slightly older than the stuff that you can compare. Ty, the cast strength of the small batch that you have in your basement downstairs that you were talking about, with the stuff that you were saying tonight, and you'll see the difference. I mean, the whiskeys every year we're getting older and older whiskey. They started distilling in 2016. Their oldest whiskey just broke 4 years and is 4 years and change. So we're growing with the distillery and our partnership. They're because we got in early and started working with them when their whiskey was only 9 months old in 2017. We saw a future or had a vision to work with this company to a point where we will have been with them for 5, 6, 8 years. and we'll get that 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old whiskey, and they will have set aside enough for us that we've requested from their stocks, and they're putting away 90,000 barrels a year. So we're going to have that whiskey available to us when everyone else that started with those high age statements because they bought a lot or they bought a liquidation or some stock or something like that, and they go through it, Smoke Wagon, for example, where it was 15 and 13 and 10 and this and that, but now it's 5 6 7 years old. They're not going to be able to get MGP age stuff. That stuff's gone.
Right.
And nothing on Smoke Wagon.
Sure.
I love Smoke Wagon. I buy that stuff. I know Aaron, or I've met him twice, and so, but point is, we're going to grow, and our whiskey's going to get older, and that's all part of the plan. And making a company that's going to be here for the long haul, and not having age statements part of that.
Yeah, and I think for me as a consumer, it's two things. One, the transparency to me is always huge, and you're talking about it now, so you guys are very transparent about it. And then two, to me, it's like when you do create those partnerships, and then you take this product and then you put your spin on it, your signature on it, and you guys still make it a unique product, even though you may not be distilling it. I think that's the part that's great to me. What I can't stand is like when you do have not even a partnership. You're just, hey, let me get this many barrels. I'm going to throw it in a bottle, make it look like I made it, and then I'm going to sell it for $100. It's like, well, what did you really do? So you didn't really add anything to this product. You're just, in it for the boom, the bourbon boom. So, so to me, as a consumer, it's I think, and I've been really interested in this lately too. Just how many consumers are truly knowledgeable. I think I talked to some people that are, may say different things, but it's like, I think that it's kind of growing now to where people, social media and the internet, I'm sure have a huge part to play in that, but where everybody's curious, it's not that anybody's going to look down at any other whiskey for not distilling or anything like that. It's just, a lot of, as a consumer, it's like, okay, this is what they are doing once they have this. The other thing that you kind of hit on too, that made me think, when I've talked about, different whiskey companies in the past, one of the things I've mentioned is I've heard people mention, say, I've tried this of their stuff and, I didn't like it. And so it's like, continue to go back to them, continue to try things, because as you mentioned, at that one point, maybe that whiskey was only 9 months old, but now maybe it's 4 years old, whatever it may be. So it's like, there's a big difference between a 9-month and a 4-year whiskey. So
yeah, there's a big difference between 9 months and 18-month-old whiskey.
Sure. Yeah.
We should try the rye whiskey.
Okay. We want to go that one next?
Our Heresy Rye Whiskey. Now, while it is a 95 rye, 5% malted barley, it is 100% not from Indiana.
That was actually, I made that comment when I opened up the
it is from Kentucky.
the bottle, because but you're also transparent on the labeling.
Well, we couldn't call
it Kentucky.
Couldn't call it Kentucky Straight Rye if it wasn't from Kentucky.
Right.
Very strict about
that. Yeah, because once I saw the 95.5, that was the first thought I had. But again, because your labeling lets us know that it's not from Indiana, it's actually Kentucky. So
yeah, all 4 of the core products are from Kentucky, 100%, and locally sourced too.
So this one is, so like you just said, mash bill is 95% rye, 5% malted barley, and then the oak bill is 40% ex-bourbon barrels, 40% new French oak, and 20% sherry cask oak.
Yes, that is same oak bill, obviously different mash bill. But here's the thing, it's 105 proof. And this is also, again, $29 to $35. So this is a workhorse rye whiskey that you can drink neat. It's a little stronger. You can put it on a rock and it'll hold up. It can also make a hell of a cocktail and kind of like shine through at 105 proof, and you can still taste that rye. The spiciness of the rye that is more traditional, some of those mintier notes, They're less prevalent. There's a lot of sweetness and fruit on this, despite there being no corn in the mash bill at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I it doesn't. It's definitely. I don't know. It's definitely doesn't smell like a bourbon or anything like that. But I don't know that I would think that right off the bat that it's. I would know that it's a rye, but it's like you said, some of those typical rye notes. It's not like heavy there.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't. If we wanted to just make another Rittenhouse, we would have just done that.
Right.
We wanted to be different, right? So we want, obviously, in our attempt to make something new, in our attempt to make something different, ultimately you end up with something different that doesn't quite taste like other ryes. But that said, this is gold medal winning. I forgot to mention that our California Oak also got a gold medal. So both gold medal winning San Francisco World Spirits 2019, 2020.
Awesome. Congratulations.
This year, but we'll submit next year.
Awesome, man.
We're waiting for these new bottles.
And I love on your labels how you put "We are risk takers." I would
Yeah.
imagine that there's products that you try and then it's like it didn't work out, or have you not come across it yet?
We've had products that didn't have the reception we had hoped for. Like, I would say the Fenwalker was a little bit of a wild card. Like, it ended up tasting like dark chocolate and raspberries and stuff, which is kind of just interesting. It was a weird but fascinating bottle. I really have never had. I'm not at my office, but I do have about 1,000 bottles, 1,100 bottles, like surrounding me at all times. And this Fenwalker that we made doesn't taste like anything I've ever had before. And I've got 150 bottles of scotch. None of them taste like it.
Right.
Very weird malty whiskey.
That's an interesting nose. And I'm not really, I'm trying to get into more ryes. I have lately, I would say over the past probably 2 years, I have found a lot of ryes that I liked. Before that, it was really hard for me. Same with scotch. And I think because I got started on bourbon, one of my buddies actually said, when you try any other whiskey, you're anticipating bourbon. So when it veers this way, then it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, well, this isn't bourbon. And it's like, yeah, it's not meant to be.
For
So
a more eclectic whiskey drinker is going to like have a preconceived wheat, a preconceived wheated bourbon, a preconceived rye, a preconceived single malt based on predominantly Scotch or even Irish whiskey or Canadian rye or something. And within those subcategories, you could definitely, try I've had Australian rye whiskey, and just like you throw out the book, you don't know what the hell it's going to taste like.
Right.
Canadian rye, or Australian rye whiskey.
Yeah, I actually have a family member of mine that they used to own a liquor store, and he came. It was like Thanksgiving a few years ago, and he came into town, and he's brought some scotch, and I told him I was like, I don't. And this probably would have been like 2014, I think. So I hadn't really tried that many scotches, and the few that I tried were heavily peated, and just not for me at that time. Now I actually enjoy it, but back then that wasn't for me. And he literally was like, You like scotch, you just haven't found a scotch that you like yet. Maybe try all these different ones.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
I think there's so many different, I think Spaceside's a great region to start with in Scotch as well. I think it's pretty palatable. It's not too smoky. Generally, very few of them are from that region, and if they are, I mean, it's because they're new age, trying to be, you can find peated. I think my family's coming home. I was trying to. I wasn't sure how long we were going to go, but
yeah, it's all good.
Sorry, excuse the background noise. But yeah, the last one here is that cask strength.
Okay. Now with the proofs, so I noticed 88, 95. I guess I could see 95, 105,
150,
16. Are these like? Do you intentionally do that to where you think this is the best point?
Oh yeah,
whiskey is okay.
With the exception of the cask strength, which generally comes in at around 116.
Right.
Anything cast strength, you have a small tolerance, I believe, of like 0.5% or 1 proof or something like that. So we were getting 116 on the former package, which included up to 3 year, but as low as 1 year. But you'll see on the new package, it's all 115. So
Okay.
after that second year, we really just lost that last proof, that last 0.5%. We were getting a slightly lower yield of the alcohol, the ABV, when we were pulling from the barrels on this new stuff. So we had to drop it from 116 to 115.
Okay.
It's just the nature of it. The entry proof on this distillery's bourbon is actually 120, not 125. So they put it in a little lower. So when you're losing about 2% a year, generally 116, but we were getting a few barrels in those first few batches that were lower than that. They're losing about 2% a year.
Yeah, and nothing about it is sharp. It doesn't have the sharp edges.
That
Like you said earlier, very approachable for a cast strength.
Oh yeah, I drink that one because it is honestly. I think I brought this bottle back like last weekend.
Right.
My wife hasn't had any, so I'm doing this by myself over here. I'm putting away this bottle. This is also not the first bottle. I have a bottle at work that looks about the same. So that's the old package. Yep.
Yep. Okay. And then mash bill's the same on all of them.
Hold on.
Yep. Sure.
Starting to see. I think someone's come home. Yep.
So, yeah. So, as far as distribution, so for everybody watching, I know we kind of hit on some of the states already with Florida, but are you pretty wide? I would imagine if you're in California,
we're in
Florida. I know you're in Indiana.
Our bourbon's pretty well distributed. We're in 19 states alone, just with total wine. We have a good amount of whiskey distributed. So,
okay. Man, this is. I think the funny thing about it is.
Between the rye and the cast strength, what were you sort of leaning towards on those two?
I was just about to say, man, I think the rye, honestly. And the funny thing is, I told you I'm not that big. I'm way more of a cast strength, bourbon, blah blah blah. But
the rye is fire, man. It's just absolutely.
I like this rye, man. This is good. And the funny thing is like I try to find ones like you said that are going to be good in cocktails, and at 105 proof, that's going to be. Oh yeah, that's going to be good.
Yeah. Do like even do an old fashioned with that. You'll love it. It's absolutely a monster when you get get the tools out and start mixing and matching drinks and stuff. And I even like berries. You just throw them in a shaker. You muddle up some blackberries, blueberries, whatever, fresh, some lemon juice, and then put that rye in there. Maybe a little bit of something sweet or some bitters, and then put that over ice.
Yeah.
I
gotta try that. No,
it's easy. So, just like kitchen fruit, like just some like frozen berries from like a bag in the freezer, and then a lemon, you're off to the races.
Try this. And it's one of those ones that like, because there's some ryes that I have in my bar that are purely for cocktails, and then there's others that I don't mind drinking neat. And if I do drink them neat, I typically don't use those ones in a cocktail. This one I could do both. I mean, it's got that versatility to where
it's priced that way. It's priced that way in that it can be easily featured, in a cocktail because you're not, and you're $29-$35 on the rye.
Right.
But it's drinks really nicely. It drinks really, really well. It's a good tasting rye. So you're absolutely not doing it wrong to have it neat or have it on a rock at 105. Like, you check all those boxes off and you're like, man, I can do whatever the hell I want with this rye. So,
man, that's
every woman's rye. It's got
and that's for anybody watching, whether they've seen your brand, maybe in a store, but just haven't, maybe didn't know too much about it or didn't, go ahead and try it. Honestly, and I'm pretty, like I'll say if I don't really like something, but I've enjoyed all of these, and I think what I enjoy most is the fact that I didn't realize how much that oak has impact. How much it impacts the whiskey. These are the exact same mash bill, obviously besides the rye, but yet they're all a different experience, and I could see myself drinking them all at different times. So, um, no, I mean, I'm really impressed with it, man. I'm definitely, once we finish the stream, me and the rye are gonna hang out a little bit.
Get a good, they call it the 2-finger, get a good pour, really sit, get to know it. I'm sure you're going to absolutely discover more notes and more flavors that you like about it. And obviously the same with all those other whiskeys. Can we get a list of everything tasted tonight? Absolutely. Go to Broken Barrel. Anyone watching, just go to brokenbarrelwhiskey.com and definitely follow us at Broken Barrel Whiskey on Instagram. We don't really have TikTok, so we should. Breaking Barrels would be probably pretty cool on TikTok, but definitely check us out on Instagram and go to our website. There's links, so if you live in any state that's not a control state, you can definitely get it online. I have a disclaimer on there. Make sure you call whatever store you're buying from before you buy it and ask if they have the new labels. You may think you're buying this and then you're getting a different package. And, while the whiskey is all delicious, we just don't want you to be disappointed. Oh, Dodger game. There's someone screaming in the streets and we're like, what does that sound?
Yeah. So, so for anybody watching, I have you guys tagged in my Instagram story as well. So you can find Broken Barrel through there as well. And then also, I'll probably put something up tomorrow since I got the whiskey in today, a post, and I'll capture all of these. The 4 that I tried tonight, I'll capture all those in a post and then list out what they are. So, so you mentioned Instagram, you mentioned your website. So that's where everybody can find you. Is there anything that you're able to or willing to share about what's coming up for Broken Barrel?
Absolutely. We are doing a barrel pick with another group, the Bourbon Pursuit group. We're also doing some barrel picks for some whiskey societies. If any of you guys watching are part of a whiskey society that does do barrel picks, you can reach out. We're happy to start that conversation, of course, and see if your group is interested in doing a barrel. And then as far as new product lines, here in Southern California, we're releasing a 7-year-old American whiskey finished in rum barrels. That'll be part of a series we're doing. So we did the Fenwalker. This one will be called the Plank Walker. And then we also have a rye whiskey that's actually a kind of like a bottled cocktail. It's basically our version of a rock and rye that'll be coming out early next year. So that's coming out as well.
Yeah, and I'm a huge
fan. And there's more than that too. Just that's the stuff that's confirmed. Sure. We've got a lot of stuff that's not confirmed, but it'll be coming out.
Okay. Yeah, and then I'm sure you'll keep me updated, and then I can share with everybody as we find out more. But I love the bottles, man. The new,
we worked hard. These bottles are awesome. You know, thing on the bottom, we have the whole monogram and like truth is in the barrel. And we actually, what's funny is these are stock corks. We have custom corks that got held up in the whole global, supply shortage and all that stuff. And our lead times went from 7 weeks to 7 months, literally. So we do have new corks coming out that are part of our whole new redesign, but they probably won't land until late December, early January. So, just one little extra kind of cool thing that's coming out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I've enjoyed all the whiskeys I tried this evening. I'm sure as soon as I end the stream, I'm going to have my wife try this one you guys use the cab with, because I know she's going to like this one.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm gonna figure out something to do with that rye. So, no, man, I definitely enjoy you taking the time to come on the show. Really appreciate that. We'll figure out something, like I said, in terms of a post, so that way everybody can find you.
Definitely.
That's following me, and we'll give more description on each of these. Um, so yeah, I'm excited, man. I think that, like I said before, the creativity that's coming out of just everything in recent years is amazing. But um, it's one thing to say that you're finishing something and being creative that way, but to really have this idea of truly breaking a barrel and seeing what the impact is on a whiskey, I think it's just, to me, it seems like something you were just, I don't know. It seems like you were just curious about it, and it, I don't know, it worked, man. But
Yeah, it's, a lot of people are finishing whiskey these days. It's kind of, you could throw a rock and hit a distillery that's finishing whiskey in this barrel or that barrel, or barrels we've done, same barrels as we've done, and this and that. But I think the beauty in what we're doing is ultimately in the combination of multiple different types of barrels to create balance. We've always made sure that our ultimate whiskey that comes out is going to be something that's balanced, and that's a lot of times we'll throw some French oak is like that balance keeper. So we always use a little bit of French oak if we can to kind of make sure we have that that nice balance on a lot of these whiskeys. And even rye barrels, you're starting to see us use a lot more rye barrels just as a sort of a balancer. You go 100% peach brandy or 100% rum, or it gets too sweet, or doesn't quite taste. There's fun ways to age and finish whiskey, but ultimately you still want to end up with something that's really drinkable, really tasty, really flavorful, and has essences of those things, but it isn't completely beholden to that flavor. So that's a nice thing. So anyways, I could talk about it forever, but yeah, we'll do a part 2 with some other whiskeys, some more exciting stuff next time, perhaps.
we will. We'll definitely have you back on the show. And everybody else, make sure you tune in next week as well, every Tuesday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern, Bourbon Talk. Thanks again, Seth, and we'll see you next time.